And we're back with Truth Unrestricted, the podcast that is apparently covering for the sound of Patrick pouring something into a glass in the background.
Hi, Spencer.
Yeah. Yeah, just as I hit record, it was this sound. It was like, he's not doing that.
This video feed is live. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can trust what you're seeing.
It's not really live. I'm not going to edit that out, but this isn't going live.
For you to answer your question right now in this moment.
So, Truth Unrestricted podcast that is, what is my tagline? We are creating and interpreting the language of the disinformation age. And we are a very serious podcast. We don't joke around here. Of course, we're not making jokes about someone possibly peeing just at the moment we're hitting record. No, of course not. We're not making that joke. Very serious podcast right now. And if anyone has any questions, comments, complaints, concerns about anything they hear on this podcast, send that email to truthunrestricted@gmail.com. Getting right into it. Patrick, how are you today, sir?
I'm good, Spencer. It's been a good day. How are you doing?
Good. I'm surprisingly well this holiday season. It's we're recording this just a couple days before Christmas. It will probably air just a little after Christmas. So this is a Christmas episode. Good on you wearing that hat.
Yeah.
That's good. For audio only listeners, he has a Santa hat on because he's much more festive than I am.
That's right. Dressing it up.
Yeah. So we want to talk about a movie called They Live. And how it relates to conspiracy ideas that are just kind of generally in the atmosphere. Had you ever watched this movie before I tied you to a chair and pried your eyes open and made you watch this movie, Patrick?
Nope. This was my first time through it to actually watch it. I think it's been in the background over the years here and there, and of course, a couple very famous lines from that movie have filtered into all of our gaming and things like that. But this was the first time I meaningfully took it in.
Actually, it was the first time I had watched it all the way through uninterrupted as well. Again, same thing. It had been on at various times when I was maybe, I don't know, at a party somewhere sometime in the 90s or whatever. People talked about it. And I only realized when I watched the whole thing through that there was this whole second half of it that almost all of it I had missed and not watched at all, apparently, ever. So watched it all this time. Don't worry. I caught it all. And we're here to talk about it. So this movie famously stars a wrestler. Now, I need to do a shout out and also give negative points to another podcast right now. That podcast is a very famous podcast. It's called Knowledge Fight. For anyone who's somehow not aware, Knowledge Fight is a podcast where two comedians, much funnier than myself, they go through Alex Jones's media output, and they point out the ways in which it's wrong and the ways in which his rhetoric is dangerous. And they also make a lot of jokes about it and all that stuff. It's an excellent podcast. However, I need to give them negative points. Just a few weeks ago, they had an episode where they went on a 5-minute tangent where they were talking about all the wrestlers from the WWE and the WWF that went on to have movie careers and all the movies and that, and they failed to mention this movie. Can you imagine? This was probably very conspicuous. This movie is credited with starting that trend of big names in wrestling moving on into movies. Did not mention it. But yeah, this movie stars Canadian Saskatchewan boy Rowdy Roddy Piper. Also a thing I did not know until I went into it this time to learn all the things. I had no idea he was Canadian. Did you know he was Canadian?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't a wrestling fan. I didn't know.
I don't think his character was Canadian.
Well, his character wasn't. No, but he's one of ours. He went there and did the stuff. And we're obligated to celebrate him for it.
Yep.
Also, last time when I set this up, I said, maybe undeservedly, that John Carpenter was a maker of films that were low budget. I do want to apologize a little bit. I did look it up. He's middle budget. He was never making the big budget box office movies, but he was never like true shoestring budget. This movie took $4 million to make. And most of that worked because he didn't have any really big names in it. The star is a wrestler who was getting paid, I don't know what he was getting paid in the WWE, but he literally, like, Roddy Piper quit working for the WWF. It was the WWF at the time. He quit working for them so that he could make this movie. The whoever it is that is in charge of that, I can't remember his name. He was not going to give him the time off to do it. So he just said, screw you, I quit. I'd rather make the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
He went back afterward. He was a very big deal after this movie, and he got a pay raise going back. And so good for him. He took the shot, and it worked out for him. This movie debuted at #1 at the box office in the first week it was around. So
wow.
And then it, according to John Carpenter, it debuted at #1, and then it slipped away and no one ever saw it again. So neat. That's maybe he's just
Flash
a little
in the
bitter. I don't know. But getting into this movie, of course, we need to do spoilers. Spoiler warning for a movie that's, doing the quick math, 37 years old. But spoiler warning nonetheless. Some people might still watch it and want to, be surprised by this. So now's your chance to duck out. 3, 2, 1, go. So the plot of this movie is that humanity has been infiltrated by a race of aliens who can appear identical to humans in every way and have been systematically replacing humans in the economic system so as to gain, covertly, complete control over society. It features a group of plucky rebels who have deduced the true nature of their reality and are attempting, in vain, to tell the world about it. So this is nearly identical to a lot of conspiracy narratives, but very particularly to the grand conspiracy narrative of a man called David Icke. Have you ever heard of David Icke, Patrick?
No. Well, yes, I've heard this name. I can't say I'm familiar.
I think I mentioned it to you maybe during the Matrix episode, the first episode of this. David Icke is a British former football player, which makes him, to us, a soccer player, who in 1990 took a weird turn after he stopped playing sort of whatever level of football he played. His name was well known enough in England for playing sports that he was on talk shows and whatnot. And when he was on a talk show one night, he just dove into all this crazy stuff, which began his conspiracy narrative. And now 37 or from 1990, 35 years later, he is still selling books and movies and, what he claims are documentaries and this sort of thing that document, in his words, this conspiracy, which to him is a race of lizard people that he calls the Anunnaki that have shape-shifting technology that have been replacing key individuals and living as society's elite for centuries. So, yeah, the similarities here to me are stark and clear. Most people note right away, who are paying any attention to this, that this movie came out in 1988, and David Icke took his drastic turn to conspiracism in 1990. But, it's not clear that he would have seen this movie. This movie was #1 in the U.S. I don't believe it made a big splash anywhere outside the U.S. And he was notably in Britain and didn't leave there very often before he took his conspiratorial turn and started doing tours and stuff to hawk his wares. So it's not clear that he would have seen this movie and said, aha, I will use this movie as my, theme. But it's likely that they used similar sources. There are people who track down this sort of thing, the etymology of conspiracy narratives, and most of David Icke's are based on old anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about Jewish blood libels and that sort of thing, because David Icke's conspiracies don't just have shape-shifting aliens. Those aliens are sacrificing humans and drinking their blood.
Oh.
So that's a thing that's different from this movie, particularly from the plot of this movie. Yeah, but conspiracists in general do tend to see themselves as plucky rebels who attempt to, in quotes, wake up the rest of the world to the reality of what they see as existence. Yeah, so what do you think about that so far, Patrick? Am I off base? Am I too loud? What am I doing?
No, I think that's a pretty apt description of it, and that's a pretty good parallel as well. You know, the kind of the sense of being a rebel in a society where the majority of people or structures seem like they are, resistant to your ideas.
Yeah.
Either actively or passively resistant. But, I saw that as well in this movie, that, they parade a lot of those ideas about for the governing alien lizard race or whatever, their secret to survival is staying hidden. Right. Yeah. So it's one of those things that will immediately feed your fear instinct if you have it. If you're like, to draw a parallel, not to say that this movie caused other conspiratorial thoughts, but, to draw that parallel, when you think that concealment is so critical to the success of something, then it's almost working like every time you don't see evidence of what you're looking to find, that's just the concealment working, right? It's very self-serving.
That's a thing that I call reality inversion, where you take the evidence of it not happening instead as evidence of it happening.
Mm-hmm.
Where you look for it and it's not there, and like, oh, they are hiding it really, really well, instead of thinking, well, maybe it's not there. It's like, no, it's there, but it's a sign of how important it is to them that they hide it from us, that they've done all these things to make it look as real as possible. Like, okay.
Where somebody won't be motivated to say, like, how good am I at finding stuff like this if I can't find anything? Maybe I'm not the one for this job, but that's not going to stop me from taking my ideas to, circulate them around.
Right. So, as we discussed when we covered The Matrix, sometimes movies contain metaphors that are not fully understood by their audiences, and sometimes people take their own meanings from what they see. And this has happened here with They Live. Most of David Icke's narratives are thinly veiled anti-Semitic tropes, as I previously said, old stories used to promote hatred of Jewish people that have been given a new coat of paint and trotted out like new show ponies for a new grifter to make a buck. Some people who see this film see those same ideas, mostly due to the unfortunate similarities to Icke's conspiracy narrative. John Carpenter has made public statements attempting to clarify his intentions and to differentiate his metaphor about class struggle and unfettered greed from racist conspiracy notions that are meant to justify harm to Jewish people. Sadly, only some people have listened. So we're going to take a look at some of the ideas put forward in the movie to see how this all fits together. The big MacGuffin of this film is the sunglasses, right? This is the big thing. Actually, you know what? I want to take a moment here and mention that this movie is based on, unabashedly based on a short story. It's called, I think it's called 8 o'clock in the morning. It's only 6 pages long. I don't know. Did you have a chance to read it, Patrick?
No.
No. All right. That's totally fine. I'll dock marks from,
I read the end of it, so I know why it's called that.
Yeah. We're not going to spoil the actual short story, but apparently we
draw the line at spoiling print.
I searched for it and I found it on a search, and it has just a PDF available on a website, so it doesn't appear to be copyrighted anymore. So I'm going to include a link to it in the show notes for this podcast. Anyone who wants to can read that. It'll only take them, a very short time, even if you don't read fast. But the glasses aren't in the short story, right? In the short story, it was actually written in 1963, 25 years before this movie came out. Now, 62 years ago. This was all about hypnosis. In the 60s, it was all about hypnosis.
Right.
This was the thing that was going to bend people's minds. The aliens were still there. They were just hypnotizing people with television. This was also the thing, is that people thought the television was casting a spell of some kind. This was also a common thing in a lot of literature. And if you watch very old sci-fi, you'll see this a lot, that the TV might have some powers that TVs don't actually have.
Do you imagine the people that worried about that if they would have saw the Pokemon Go revolution?
Yeah. So this device, it's just like a MacGuffin. A MacGuffin could be basically anything, but this device allows a person to see, quote unquote, the truth, right? So conspiracists have attempted to adopt the search for an illusory truth that only they can see as the backbone of their flawed ideas. And so this is sort of this is a direct correlation. Conspiracists who see this movie will see the idea of just putting on a pair of sunglasses as, now you can suddenly see everything. Your eyes are opened. You are awake now. You know about the nature of the world and that you can't never go back. And this is a big part of this movie. So I do have some clips, but the first one isn't actually a clip. It's just an image. One of the enduring images from this that's been put into a lot of other places, it's influenced a lot of other things, is the idea that not only was he, of course, seeing who among us was the aliens when he put the sunglasses on, he was seeing other things as well. Mm-hmm. He was seeing that everything that was written down in our world, all the signs in the city, in LA where they are, all the signs were actually something else. They were actually conveying a whole different meaning that he could see when he put the sunglasses on. So we're just going to throw that up on the stage here. We'll have a quick look. For anyone listening, we'll just kind of describe it real quick. Obviously, he's just looking at a city street, and there's signs for hotels and street signs and all this sort of thing, people trying to sell things or whatever on the street in a busy downtown LA. But the signs now actually read, say other things, of course, things like obey, conform, stay asleep, consume, submit, watch TV, no thought.
Marry and reproduce.
Yeah, that's a good one. Marry and reproduce. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a new shout out to a new podcast. There's a podcast that's about natalism. It's actually a fairly new podcast. It's only had, I think, one season. And it's very, very good. I'm going to pull up the name of that podcast now because I can't. Oh, it's called Ill Conceived. I remember it right now. So anyone who's interested in understanding the depth of the movement in the United States to produce more children, that's an excellent podcast. They do individual episodes about all kinds of different aspects of it and very informative on that topic. But yeah, marry and reproduce. This was a big idea in the 80s too, getting people to, make more children for the United States.
And be more stable as a populace.
Well,
because if you put down roots and you adopt a routine, you now are predictable.
Yeah, this is an idea that's put forward as among conspiracists as part of the thought jail, the thing that's trapping you in society, right? And then, as far as that goes, I mean, we are trapped. I'll say,
there's
yeah, we
predictability,
are.
but what's the mechanism of control? Like, did I choose this routine? Did I choose to be doing something,
Or
or
what's more is that are they influencing some small decisions, like me to buy a certain brand of shoes ahead of a different brand of shoes, or are they influencing like my decisions to pick a certain wife, and not just a wife of a different hair color or something, but like a very specific wife, right? Like it's not clear that that's happening. You know what I mean? Like
no? Yeah.
the big choices in my life appear to still be mine.
Hmm.
Yeah. I do get a lot of Nike and Reebok ads all the same, but I'm not necessarily buying those shoes as a matter of course, right? Like, I don't know. So yeah, there are ways in which they try to influence our decisions, but usually it's just to sell stuff. Usually,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. That's money. That's the
That's
control
the
and flow of
biggest
money.
influence of information on me personally. Anyway, we have this
Hmm.
new stream of disinformation from politics, which we have to deal with. But yeah, let's not go down that rabbit hole right now. But a few things to note about when he's looking at these, seeing these new messages instead of the old messages. So
It
subliminal
might help
messages.
to point out. Sorry, I was just going to say it might help to
Sure, yeah.
point out if anyone saw the image that the real life look down that street, like these are all just the normal billboards that you would see. Like
Yeah.
this shot that we saw is like the revelation of what's underneath.
Yeah. Right.
So just to
So
help if people were, yeah.
subliminal messages were once upon a time a big deal. They were another thing in the 70s and 80s that was thought to be able to greatly influence what people were going to do in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mind
so
control.
yeah, there was even episodes. I remember there was even an episode of Columbo where this was a plot point where Columbo took a movie and he spliced in subliminal messages that only the murderer would be triggered by, and then he waited in the room where was the room where the murder happened to see who went there. I mean, but
Wow.
yeah. This was I remember distinctly. This was one of the plot points of a Columbo episode, but
Huh.
I think they even tried it at some points to sell more popcorn, but I don't think that it even did that. Right. So if you can't even sell more popcorn at a movie theater, how good are these subliminal messages? Right. Like they haven't, caused us to, derail and all form a line when the leader approaches our town, kind of thing. Right. Like they don't make us any less rebellious. It
Well, it's
doesn't seem to
also,
be.
I
Yeah.
think that you have to examine the scope of like the time being examined, right? So if you don't see popcorn sales increase in a year, that's one thing. But what if they did it for 30 years, right? And they looked at how everything else had increased. Did popcorn increase more than the other? I don't know.
Well,
I
okay,
get
but then
really deep into projection
sure,
and stuff
sure,
like
but
that.
what you get there is you and I are in the pitch meeting, and you just made that pitch, and then I'm across the table and I'm doing the other side and say, okay, but we're looking at a cost versus profit increase ratio here. We're gonna have to work on this for 30 years. We're gonna sell how many more bags of popcorn? 10% more, 20% more, like, what's our return on investment on this thing that we're going to put 30 years into? Wouldn't it be better
Mm-hmm.
to like invest in real estate with that money? You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
going to increase more over 30 years, I think. Right. So this is generally how these things happen. Maybe it does. Maybe you can, except that, it's not worth it. It's not worth all the
Mm-hmm.
effort. I mean, you could make an elaborate world where you convince one person to like do a series of obscene things, but like the amount of money you'd have to put into faking that world for them,
Well,
that
see,
doesn't seem useful.
I kind of bring it up a little bit to say that like it's a hard thing to test, right? Because it is the sort of
Well,
thing
yeah.
that when subliminal advertising, the idea of it came up, it was, like there were attempts, but how long could they do it? how long could they possibly feel moral trying to do it? Because it was, at its nature, a subversive thing. You are trying to basically incept the idea that I want popcorn and make you think it was your idea
make you
instead of
more
me just
hungry.
saying buy it. Yeah. So it's, I don't know. It's one of those things where, because of the morality, it does become harder to test.
I think it works about as well as hypnosis, which is almost barely any, there's a reason why hypnosis hasn't caused anyone to allowed anyone to take over the world, because it doesn't really give anyone control in the way that it was feared that it would.
No, which is just suggestion for suggestible people.
Yeah, which sort of allows us neatly to track from the short story that started us with hypnosis to where they're worried about subliminal messages, to now where we kind of look at both of those ideas as well. We understand people were worried about them, but those weren't really things to worry about. But a few other things to note about this with the images. In the unfiltered world, as in not through the glasses, the words that he sees everywhere are in color, and the words are more plentiful and complicated. Like in the magazine that he looks at, there's many words on there, right? And they're saying many complicated things. But when he looks at it through the glasses, it's stark black and white. They're all very, very simple.
And they're all imperative.
Very repetitive. Right. And so this is sort of John Carpenter trying to tell us something, is that these words and this world, this sheen that we have over the world is an illusion that's just distracting us from things. That's more or less what he's saying. And what it's distracting us from is actually really, really obvious and stark, right? It's that's what he's attempting to get across, which I think we can understand and note. I think we are bombarded with images and distracted by a lot of things, but the idea that we were distracted in 1988 by magazines, I mean, John Carpenter today must look at Twitter and Facebook and go, wow, man.
Yeah.
Whoa, I was way over, I was way ahead of my game on this, Yeah. So let's get into the first clip. So setting up this clip, this is a moment where in the movie, the protagonist's name is George Nada. Nada. I can't help but think that it's a blatant play on the word of nothing. This is just an ordinary guy. He's just a nobody. So Nada has already worn the glasses around town. He's seen the images. He's been found out by the aliens, and then he's been sort of chased away. The aliens attempting to capture him to, stop. One of the humans is broken containment and can see us, kind of thing. And he's escaped, and he's taken a woman captive at gunpoint, made a getaway, and he's gone to her home to recover. So this is the clip.
Look, lady, we're in trouble. The whole world's in trouble. They're all around us and we never knew it. You can only see them with these special glasses. I swear to you, we're being controlled by these things. I don't know what they are or where they came from, but we gotta stop them.
All right. I'll do whatever you want. Whenever you want. Just don't hurt me. Please.
Listen to what I'm saying to you.
Okay. You're fighting the forces of evil that none of us can see without sunglasses.
Take a look.
If you want me to look through your sunglasses, I'll look through your sunglasses. If I don't see what you see, I'm gonna see it anyway.
Right. So obviously it's a fairly intense moment. He's trying to get her to look and she's resisting.
she's siding with him. It's a really weird moment where she's like, listen, if I tell you, I'd just be telling you to trick you. Like, that's not what I usually say to somebody who's holding a firearm,
Yeah, right. But she does make a point there in that you can't force anyone to see the reality of the situation, right? And so, I mean, this is an interesting.
We encounter that again later in the movie, don't we?
Oh yeah. I don't have a clip of that, but we can talk about it real quick. But this is the idea of the sunglasses, and he has only one pair at this point, right? The idea of the sunglasses represents the kaleidoscope reality problem. So only one person can look through them at a time and can claim to be seeing any number of things while doing so. And one has to rely on the mechanism of viewing reality as common to everyone before one can use one's own subjective view of reality as a reliable measure of what other people understand about the world. So you ever had a kaleidoscope as a kid?
Yeah.
Right. And of course, you'd hold it up and you'd see things. And then every once in a while, some kid would say that they saw something incredible in there. Like, I saw a bear fighting a dragon, right? And then you look through it and you don't see that. It's neat what you see. It's interesting, sort of, right? There's shapes in there and they move around. It's, there's little mirrors in there that, make things look like a, I don't know, colorful snowflake kind of whatever. And, you're not going to see the same thing that they claim to see. And so you have this break where you have to sort of figure out whether you trust them that they really saw that thing that you can't in any way confirm. You also can't deny. There's no way to have any proof of what they did or didn't see.
Well, to a degree, I would say it's almost a little bit more like cloud watching, right?
Well,
because if I tell you what you'll see and you put the glasses on and you actually do confirm that, it'd be kind of like me saying, oh, that looks like a hot dog, and you looking up and saying, yeah, I could see how that looks like a hot dog.
Yeah,
right? But
you're
it's
giving them the interpretation in advance.
Yeah.
Right. But of course, I mean, that's not really the case here.
No.
Because he could hold up, I don't know, find a magazine in her house or something and say, look at this. You will see something different when you put these on than you did before you put them on, before you had them on. And you'll know. I mean, and we can you could write down the word you see, and then I could put them on, and I could write down the word I see, and then we could come to some common shared reality about what it is that this magazine is attempting to tell us according to the filter we get when we look through the sunglasses.
Right.
And that's, but of course we also get the aspect that she's resisting looking through the sunglasses. Right. And of course, as you mentioned, we get this later on too, where we get his friend played by the amazing Keith David, who's been in a lot of other films, also excellent, but he wasn't a really big actor at this time. I think he was fairly not well known at this time, and they have a 5-minute knockdown drag out fight in an alley. It's amazing. This fight, I don't have a clip, but
the fight alone, I think, is worth watching just because it's got the most painful depiction of being kneed in the groin over and over.
It has a story. It has a story. No kidding. So, according to when I looked up information about this, John Carpenter had a fight scene that was going to be like a minute long. And, his two lead actors were looking through the script and they saw this and they looked at the shooting schedule and said, okay, that's going to be then. And so they spent 2 months in their off time rehearsing and just the two of them choreographing their own fight scene. And of course, one of them is a professional wrestler, so he is good at fight choreography, right? Legitimately good at it. Usually does it in front of a live audience. So he's good. And so he's teaching Keith David all the things about this. And of course, it's a lot easier when you get to choose the camera angle from which you look at it and all of those things, right? So but he legit does this. And then on the day when it's happening, they tell John Carpenter, relax, we got this, right? Like, and they just do it. And John Carpenter loves it so much, he puts the whole fight scene in there. He leaves it all in. And it's 5 minutes long, like legit from first punch to last punch. It's something like 10 seconds short of 5 minutes long. It's just brutal. Yeah, amazing. Worth watching just for that. I mean, if you like fight scenes, but yeah, it's pretty legendary. And of course, it's something you get extra when you hire a professional wrestler as the lead actor in your movie, right? I mean,
I also thought it put a real visceral feel on the challenge. I imagine, whether somebody is, engaging in conspiracy thinking or theorizing, or whether they actually know about something that they're trying to bring to light, like a whistleblower or whatever. It frames the challenge of trying to convince somebody to just take that first look. I think sometimes, I would want to look at myself and say, do I ever put that challenge in front of myself? Am I refusing to take the first look at something because of my own complacency or comfort level, or because I can already sense that the implications of what I look at this is true means that now I have to commit to being part of some sort of solution or something? And I think that's, there's a lot of apathy, and whether a person is just normal rational thinking, or whether they're completely off the deep end with a conspiracy, there doesn't seem to be a lot of will for people to take on more, right? So just getting somebody to take that first look, especially the ebb and flow of this 5 minute fight scene, where it's just like, is it over? It's over. It's not over, right? That he's not stopping until he gets those. And you think, oh man, like, if I could have just answered your question in 10 seconds by putting the glasses on my face and going, no, you're a loony, wouldn't that have been easier than being punched in the face 20 times, right? But that's not how it usually goes. So
yeah, I mean, you can kind of game it out, right? You'd be like, if I look, will I have to change everything about my life and how I'm living it? Will my life become like less comfortable? Will I have to, as a good person in the world, change how I interact with the world such that I'm now forced to do the right thing for everybody else, right? Like, does this put this burden on me? And this is sort of question that people ask themselves with like atrocities or human rights violations that are committed by other countries, that sort of thing. Like, these things that other nations do that might be a nation that our nation has relations with, right? Like friendly relations with. So like, how much of that comes back on us? Sometimes some of the nations sell weapons to each other. Sometimes those weapons are used as part of those human rights violations. And then we do, does this make me complicit, right? And far too often the answer is, I can solve this by simply not acknowledging the problem. And so this was sort of what Carpenter, I think, was going for with this, like, should I or shouldn't I, question in this, which, if you look at the actual problems related to like capitalism, will you then be forced to accept a less comfortable life in order to be part of the solution to the problems posed by capitalism, right? Can you bypass that dilemma by simply not looking, in this case, like through the glasses? And I think that's part of what he's going for. But the other thing he's going for that's not, he probably just didn't want to have to make it explicit, is that he's dealing with George Nada is approaching people in the woman, I can't remember her name in the film, and then his friend Keith David's character. These are people who have been bombarded by these messages their whole lives: obey, don't question, conform, right? I mean, that's more of, I think, what John Carpenter is going for, is that you have to break past that restrictive barrier that this programming you have, but that doesn't come across very well, I think, in the way that the story is told. So I don't know, I think that's a little bit of a miss, but certainly conspiracists would understand that, because they think that they tell themselves that the other people in their lives, their family members sometimes, or friends or whatever, who don't get on board, that's because they're so indoctrinated, they're so trained, they're so programmed to not question the reality or whatever, right? Like, and that's how they see it, right? That's exactly how they see it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. I've been trying to not be as energetic as I have been in previous episodes because my wife sits in the other room watching television to the room I'm in, and it's not even close to soundproof. So, I'm trying to not, she's worried about who I'm arguing with on the internet or whatever. And I'm not arguing with anyone, just myself.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm doing that very well because I really like this stuff. So let's move into another clip. So this is a clip that I call the Rebel Meeting. So our main character and his sidekick are attending a meeting of the plucky rebels as they prepare for war against the aliens.
Good. Well, the city's crawling with cops looking for us. And most of the cops are human. They've been told that we're commies trying to bring down the government. And some of them are being recruited. Creatures are trading wealth, power.
You mean people are joining up with them?
Most of us just sell out right away. Then all of a sudden we get promoted. Our bank accounts get bigger. We start buying new houses, cars. Perfect, isn't it? We'll do anything to be rich.
Look around the environment we live in. Carbon dioxide, fluorocarbons, and methane have increased since 1958. Earth is being acclimatized. They are turning our atmosphere into their atmosphere.
What do these things want, and why are they here?
It's in their best interests. They're free enterprisers. The Earth is just another developing planet. Their third world.
We are like a natural resource to them. Deplete the planet, move on to another. They want benign indifference. They want us drugged. We could be pets. We could be food. But all we really are is livestock.
So that's pretty stark. That's pretty dark, right? All we really are is livestock. It's also not, I mean, even in the film, it's not really true. It's more like a, I don't know. I mean, if you're going to call it something, it's more like a slave situation, I guess. Because what's the point of being rich unless you're richer than someone else, right? So you kind of have to have people who are poor in order to be richer than, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to have $40 million if no one's left alive to pay them to do stuff for you, right? Like, so the idea that they're going to eat all the people as livestock is not really true. That seems like hyperbole, but
yeah.
What did you think of that moment?
Well, it's, using the term livestock like that might not necessarily be tied to food, but just subjugation, right? You exist in the conditions and limits that we place on you, and you're not allowed to exceed or move beyond that envelope.
Yeah, in that way, it harkens right back to the Matrix, right? Where we at first sort of, it appears as though the people in the Matrix are living more free lives because they have more opportunities, but they aren't really the arbiters of their own fate. And so we see their wealth of decisions as having no value. And the same thing would be true here, right? Exactly true, for the exact same reasons.
We also trace the nature of dependency, right? And so when we say that, when we start to spot dependencies, we also are sometimes instinctively looking at that like a vulnerability, because a dependency is something that if one side of the dependency isn't satisfied, then the other side that depended on it is now in a lessened state. And so it's really easy for us to, almost apply a sinister coding to any time where we see a concentration of dependencies, right? So we do have a lot of dependencies on our government to provide, the electricity, the internet, the water, the things that the medical and law enforcement, all this stuff. So when people look at government, and if they're conspiratorially inclined, it's easy to then liken that dependency to either a precursor or just an early stage of slavery, I think.
Yeah, well, that's why we came up with democracy, because we wanted them to also be dependent upon us
Mm-hmm.
for, and also, like, I think increasingly in our capitalist hierarchies and also our political hierarchies, we should look less at the people who are sort of like above us on a hierarchical scale, like the manager at work or whatever, less as like a better person than just a person with a different job. That's a person whose job is to organize the effort. And yeah, as such, they need to tell people what to do, but they're not telling people what to do because the people that they're telling it to do are subservient. Like, I worked in the oil field. Go tell anyone who works on the shop floor anywhere that they're subservient to their manager. Oh my God. Like, not a chance, right? Because that's not how anyone should see this. Right. And that's definitely not how they see it. A boss in the oil field that tells someone else who works for them to go wash their own truck is a boss that will get zero respect from the people under them. Like, yeah, I work for you, but my job isn't to wash your fucking vehicle. Like, my job is to get the equipment working that I'm going to take to the field or whatever, right? Like, wash your own damn truck. Yeah. And if you can't, then I don't know why I work for you. You can't even wash a truck.
Why are you
what makes
calling
me
the
think
shots?
what makes me think you're qualified to do anything if you can't even wash a truck? And I've rarely ever seen a boss get other people to wash their vehicle for them in the oil field. It was so incredibly rare, and I think that's a sign that I think other people need to look at that same situation. Even the people who own companies, they own the company, yeah, sure, but they're just organizing the effort. That's all. Yeah, they might even choose whether you work there or not, but you can work somewhere else. Like, go. In fact, if you think that there's any chance that they might do that, you should just go anyway. You should just go, right? Like,
I think
no one
people
should
see
hold that over you.
themselves as slaves to the grind, but not slaves to the next manager above them.
Yeah, but then the grind has to be personified by something. It's hard to hate a system that has no face.
Well, I mean, you can personify it really generally and call it the man.
Well, yeah, that's usually how it goes. Yeah. But I do want to throw a little bit of criticism directly at John Carpenter for this scene. I think he extended his metaphor a little too far here with the man on the television, telling the attempting to broadcast sort of like the truth in their fictional world, the truth. So these ideas that he's throwing out, I mean, he literally says that they're changing the climate to have it better suit the aliens. And that is definitely something that comes up in conspiratorial language, that which is weird, but that this happens this way. So first of all, I like to say that the metaphor that John Carpenter is going for, which is capitalism and trickle-down economics, is creating a bigger class divide, and in the class divide, they are dehumanizing the people on the bottom to enrich the people at the top. And in his movie, he then flips that around by literally dehumanizing the people at the top, literally making them aliens, so that it's okay that you don't have to feel guilt when you shoot them, right? Like, that's literally what he's saying. Eat the rich, literally shoot the rich. But he doesn't need, the climate to be, changing to acclimate itself to the aliens in order to make that. It doesn't fit with his metaphor, but it does fit with the conspiratorial metaphor that he would rather avoid. So I think this was sort of like a mistake. And I think I don't want to put a great deal of shade on him. I've heard other interviews from John Carpenter about this movie and other movies. He's a very famous director. I don't think that he did this like to subvertly put in conspiratorial notions. He's never shown any sign to me to be, leaning that way in any other spot, even in his, older years. And so I think it's just a product, he probably just did a bunch of reading on a bunch of different stuff related to this stuff. And then he went, these are just ideas to throw in there. And he threw a bunch of things in there, you know what I mean? But again, this one isn't needed for his metaphor, but it does fit the metaphor he's trying to avoid associating with. And he probably didn't really think about the need to differentiate himself from that set of bad ideas, because in 1988, they weren't a big set of ideas yet. But, I think this is a thing where he just kind of slipped and put in the wrong bit from a conspiratorial magazine that he read somewhere or whatever, right? And for that matter, to talk about the way that conspiracists use this piece to fit into a larger narrative, they'll say things like aliens are coming, they are changing the climate to acclimate themselves to for their own self and not for ours, which is actually something David Icke says, by the way, that this is a thing that the lizard people, the Anunnaki, are doing, warming up the earth because the lizards would like that better. This is weird because in almost every other context, they'll also say that the climate either isn't changing or there's no way to change it by human action. And it seems like this should be some kind of a problem, except that we also see people who are sort of conspiracy minded look at things like COVID, and in two separate sentences that follow one after the other say things like that COVID isn't real, but that it was made in a laboratory by the Chinese to negatively affect our economy, right? So if it's not real, how could it be made in a laboratory, right? Like these two ideas are directly contradictory and mutually exclusive, and yet you'll hear them from the same person, like one after another. And this doesn't bother them at all, because what is a more accurate description of conspiratorial thinking is that any answer except reality will do. So this doesn't cause any problem for them at all, because they're okay with either one of them. So they'll throw them both out there because they're both not reality, and they just want it to be anything but reality. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting. And this one, the way conspiratorial people look at this is interesting, to understand that they see no contradiction here. They see there is no hypocritical thinking in throwing out both of those ideas at the same time, because they're not looking to make a cohesive, well thought out, well structured worldview. It's just anything but reality will do. Mm-hmm.
One thing I would say about that, the aliens being present and toxifying the atmosphere and whatnot, is that as a plot device, it serves to introduce like what the final, the ultimate consequence is, right? Like our planet becomes unlivable because there's always going to be the conformists or the conformist minded who looks at it and says, well, life goes on, right? Sure, you see these people are conforming and obeying, but what's the harm in it? And by having that plot device, it means that you cannot continue like this forever in this, what would almost be called like a toxic equilibrium or a toxic symbiosis of sorts. But this clearly makes the role of the aliens to become parasitic, right? Like they're not just taking stuff they need, they're making our planet unlivable for us, the natural humans.
Yeah, except that in the statement that came just before that from the sort of rebel leader, for lack of a better term, who's not the man on the television saying all the other things, he says that the aliens are just basically venture capitalists. They just show up, they make a bunch of money, and then they leave it in a shambles and they destroy it and they leave, right? Like it's so in that way, what his version is directly contradicting the one that's even on the television right after him, which is definitely something we hear from conspiratorial people, but it as a what the first guy says about they're just capitalists, that's like exactly what John Carpenter is going for. Like he says explicitly in many interviews, no, it's just about trickle down economics, it's just about a division of wealth, it's just about wealth gap. Like that's what I was going for. That's everything that was in this movie. It didn't have a bunch of sub themes. I just had the one, and that was it. So like it just seems like it's a confusing piece that's unneeded.
It doesn't serve that theme. No, that's for sure.
Yeah. So,
but just as a plot device, it does kind of add like a more
like
critical
a flavor
element.
It does add flavor.
There's no escape hatch of just continuance as the norm, right? Like if you're never going to fix this problem.
You're never going to just outlive the aliens. You're never gonna cower and hide your head and wait for it to be over and then just move on after they're gone, because the Earth really will be destroyed, right? Yeah. But to believe that, you'd have to believe that climate change is going to destroy. So I don't know what to tell you about that, but that'll be another episode.
I will say that you can kind of see the an element of what you're saying about the wealth control and whatnot, because we see our main character go from an initial state where he's saying to his friend, oh, like, come on, we all just kind of there's hard times are going around. Right? Yeah,
but it'll get better at some point. Yeah, right.
And then he has the the curtain ripped back and he sees it for what it is, or the veil, if you will, and now he's this transformed man who no longer believes that, oh, these are just hard times. I've spent my whole life accepting that, oh, there's just hard times. Now I see that there's someone is authoring this experience. And that's why, like there's parts of this movie where you see the main character get mad and say people are going to pay, or like when he walks in the bank with the intent to kick ass and chew bubble gum, right?
Well,
like
here, hold on.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble gum.
Yeah. So there's that
audible gasp. He's all out of bubble gum.
So he's got nothing else left to do but kick ass. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's got a very short list of things to do, and he's one of them's gone already. Yeah.
Oh
yeah. So we're going to play our last clip here. It's what you were saying leads nicely into it. So setting it up, our hero, I guess heroes. There's two of them at this point. They have stumbled into a meeting of the quote unquote human power elite, which I can't help but think was a deliberate attempt at not using any of the conspiratorial words that were already in play in the world at that point. Like Illuminati was definitely available as a word for this. He could have called it the Illuminati, but it seems specifically that he wanted to avoid using that term. Human
he would have ended
elite.
Up getting calls from the Illuminati saying, "Listen, we didn't sign up for any of this
we
shit.
did. We're suing you for
we're doing other stuff,
watering down our brand." So he's in the middle of his Rambo-esque rampage, and they stumble into this sort of meeting. So here it is.
Our projections show that by the year 2025, not only America, but the entire planet will be under the protection and the dominion of this power alliance. The gains have been substantial, both for ourselves and for you, the human power elite. You have given us entree to the resources we need in our ongoing quest for multidimensional expansion. And in return, the per capita income of each of you here tonight has grown, and this year alone, by an average 39%.
Yeah, seems like a lot. 39 in 1 year.
39%.
Wow, that's incredible
Wow.
return on investment. Yeah. You
Yeah.
wouldn't want to have to do commercials about popcorn for 30 years to try to sell enough popcorn to get 39% year over year.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
And the year is 2025, he said, right?
well. He said by the year 2025
So
they
that's
would be
now.
completed. Yeah, it's over. It's already
done.
over.
It's done. We're part of it.
Well, hold on. If
Okay.
our hero hadn't done what he did back in 1988, it would have been over by now. But because he did what he did, he bought us a lot of time.
All right.
It's unclear whether he got all the aliens. We don't have those glasses anymore. We can't see them. But yeah, money and profit are the entire point of this film. It's what John Carpenter was intending to critique. And the scene explicitly tells us how that's working out. Big profits for everyone who helps out with the plan. Mm-hmm. So I didn't include it because the clip gets a little long if you do. But immediately following this speech is the entrance of someone from the that is originally seen in the Drifter encampment near the start of the film. So this, for me, I had to really look up to find out what was happening here. But when this guy shows up, he recognizes them and says, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that you got recruited too," kind of thing. Like, wow, that's cool. Okay, yeah, you should have dressed up for this now that you can afford it, right? Like, this is, wow, you're kind of dressed down for this, but good thing we all got in on this deal, right? Like, and but it's kind of a miss because I don't think we get enough of him in the Drifter encampment to be clear exactly who he is.
No, if you didn't tell me that now,
yeah,
I knew that there was some sort of, but I was just like,
missed something, and I think this is sort of a problem with the way that it was made or whatever. There, I feel like there needs to have been more of a focus on him as a person doing something specific, saying a specific thing or something. I don't know. But in particular, like, I wound back and I looked at it to find him, and he's dressed so differently. And of course, he was wearing a hat as a drifter. And there's a scene earlier in the movie where there's a sort of a chair that's pushed in front of a TV that they're kind of watching, and they're watching the pirated TV signal attempting to cut through the noise and tell all the people in the city the truth, kind of thing, but it's not really working. And these guys in front of the TV are kind of complaining about the reception, and they're not sure why this other channel's coming in, but they don't understand what they're saying, and they're like, oh, like, this kind of sucks, and I wish our TV was better, kind of thing. And of course they're kind of living in this empty lot on the edge of town, so they're lucky to have a TV at all. But
yeah, what they got that thing plugged into, I don't know.
Well, they must have a long extension cord of some kind, right? But he's the guy sitting in the chair, right? But that's the only time he speaks before this, right? So it's not, like, it's not really clear who he is. And of course he's clean and dressed up in a suit now. Like, he looks way different. And so it is not really clear what's happening. But this is this is sort of like the idea of the secret club, right? So it's difficult to underline just how closely this resembles how conspiracists view the world, right? Like they're very cynical. And the idea is that there is a secret club in which everyone's profits are celebrated, right? These people, the elite, aren't competing with each other. They're only competing against us. So in the movie, we see it. It's a brightly decorated and incredibly clean room that the elite are in. And it's contrasted directly with how, the people in the encampment at the beginning of the movie where it's dirt path, and everywhere they go is more dirt, and they're kind of living in tents, and there is a makeshift shower, but it doesn't always work, right? And you have to take turns using it, and so again, the idea being presented is the fact that your life hasn't turned out for the better because you're not in some special secret club, and that the members of that special secret club are all colluding to make their own lives better at your expense. And you're not ever going to be the person at the top because someone who knows someone gets to be in that spot. Whenever they need a new person, they go, oh, I know Joe down the street. He's a good guy. Yeah, let's get him the gig, right? And the world is entirely made of nepotistic cronyism at the top and hardworking, diligent, honorable people at the bottom. And that's, I mean, it's when I put it that way, it almost makes what John Carpenter did almost ham-fisted, which I think is also unfair because to me, it's not ham-fisted. He does do a nice job of making this sort of bookends of the empty dirt lot where there's a lineup for food at the start and then a clean room at the end with the rich elites at the end, right? I mean, this to me fits, and it's nicely done, but it is, it is a very simple metaphor. Let's just put it that way, right? So, what do you think? Am I off base on this?
No, I just I didn't really give that aspect of it any thought myself.
Yeah, having one guy in the same spot, I think was much of the point for John Carpenter, right? He's there in the dirt lot, and then he's also there in the human power elite meeting, right? And this
his aim was to show somebody else had made that trajectory, like you said. It kind of failed because he was not notable at all.
Right.
In the beginning.
That's a miss because it just wasn't, maybe there was another scene that would have made it notable, but it got cut or something like that.
But it could have just as easily been a complete total stranger who saw a couple guys and said, "Oh, you're new here? I want to show you around." Right?
Yeah.
Then it just would have all the exact same stuff would have happened.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but having it be someone they knew and that they could rely on and be like, hey, could you show us around kind of thing, which is what he does then. He shows them the transmitter or whatever. Right? Like he leads them into the TV studio. Which is like trust. Yeah, well, I mean, it felt like there had to be another scene in there somewhere where they gained that mutual trust. And I think it must have been done and just got cut for some reason, because I can't imagine John Carpenter just forgetting that point. You know what I mean? Like that seems like he's a good enough storyteller that he would have known that would have to be there, but there must have been some other, problem with having it in there. I don't know why, what would have stopped it, but these sorts of things do sometimes happen in films, and it is unfortunate, but so.
Well, I mean, there was a couple issues with the film itself, right? Like just in terms of consistency. There was the one thing I noticed that had me actually laugh out loud was when he's got the glasses on, he's walking along. Now he sees this transmitter saying sleep, sleep, sleep. I'm like, oh, you can hear that now because you have the glasses on?
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Or why is this dump truck just dropping all of its garbage in the alley and driving away? Because that's what was needed for him to have the glasses threatened, right? So, I don't think he was putting a lot of thought into, is this going to have the consistency and the cohesion at the end for stories? But
also, I mean, I'll throw in a little bit of defense for my man Carpenter. He's fit this into 90 minutes, which was a little. Movies used to be regularly 90 minutes. And at the time, this was starting to not be the case. Movies were starting to become longer. But he fit.
The fight scenes were starting to get longer.
Well, true. But he fit this entire thing into 90 minutes, and quite a lot happens, right? In 90 minutes, you would be hard pressed to get that today, I think. And but he does it by doing some of the sort of things that you describe, right? Like by having them dump the garbage in the alley. That's also the alley where his friend finds him, and I mean, the level of coincidence happening here is pretty amazing, right? LA's a pretty big city. Which alley are you going to find your friend in? Why are you looking in alleys anyway? Right. Like that's, but as long as we buy those things, it's fine. I mean, this isn't meant to be a complete examination of real life, obviously. And as a metaphor, I think it worked pretty good. So I have a little bit of a concluding bit here.
All right.
So this movie is about increasing wealth inequality, unabashedly. It should have a resurgent audience at a time when we're seeing that to an even greater extreme, right? Much more so now than in the late 80s. So what's happening in our world now? We're seeing people get displaced from their homes at a much greater rate than ever previously seen in the Western world. And almost entirely due to economic factors. People priced out of housing markets by, happenstance of job churn and, runaway housing costs. A growing class of people created by a slow grinding machinations of a bureaucracy linked to technology that's got no one really at the helm. It's just mindlessly uncaring for, what used to be the few who fell out of it, but an increasing number now who fall out of it, right? And this film features images of a group of unlucky and currently unprivileged people who are yet highly motivated and industrious, getting literally plowed under. Like, that scene exists in this movie. I mean, that to me is John Carpenter, like, really, turning the screw in, you know what I mean? Like, making it very obvious what he's going for here. The dirt patch on the edge of town where they had come up with, a place where people drifting in from out of town could, find a place to have a shower and a meal without having to have a full hotel or whatever because they can't afford it, literally plowed under. And, sadly, we've also had this happen in real life, in our real world of these encampments getting plowed under. And I think that we need to, as a modern day callback, if you will, we need to take films like this that were saying a similar thing from a previous time, and we need to talk about the actual messages in them and say, look, we need to do more of something. And if that more is a difficult thing to do, well, guess what? We already talked about the people who are, like, quote unquote in charge. They just have a different job than we do. Their job is to organize these bigger efforts. So fucking organize it already, right? Mm-hmm. Like, earn your keep. Like, you're going to be an elected person in the world now, then why don't we tell those elected people that part of their job now is to organize an effort to find a better way for this than what's happening now, which seems to be just like everyone wants to squish the air bubble out of their own town into someone else's town, and it just, can become someone else's problem. But humans aren't garbage. And that's, if I want to take one of the points from this movie and like shove it in people's faces, that's what I want to say. Humans aren't garbage to be swept away. Like, at some point we have to find a way to do this where, people who are unhoused and can't afford their lives, we either find a way for them to afford those lives, or we find another way to have them exist so that they don't have to be, living the way they do, which is going to lead to much worse outcomes for them. I mean, try to keep yourself clean enough to keep, diseases away when you're living on the street. It's not great. So yeah, that's what I would put into the world right now as an ending note. What do you have to say for yourself, Patrick?
Well, kicking ass is exhausting, so I got to find myself some bubble gum.
Yeah. Put more things on the list ahead of that. Don't cross them off so easy. There were a couple. There's another really great line. Like, so I will say the bubblegum line, by the way, written by Rowdy Roddy Piper himself.
Oh yeah.
And he had a notebook of things to say ad hoc when he's doing wrestling stuff. Like a full notebook full, and he pulled that one out of there that he'd never used before, and they threw that in the movie. But I think this one was not written by him, but I'm going to play it now.
Life's a bitch. She's back in heat.
Life's a bitch, and she's back in heat. Yeah. So, I mean, it does sound like kind of a line that someone like this guy might kind of throw out there, which is neat. But I think that one was written by John Carpenter. Yeah. No, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
So that's They Live. I do have a couple other scenes that didn't make the cut. I got no feedback from the last one yet, so I'm not going to produce any extra material on that unless anyone says that they're interested in what I had to say about Inception. Additional things I had to say about Inception, and if you feel like you want to, interested in extra things I had to say about They Live, you're going to have to ask me for it. I'm going to dangle that carrot and make you, the horse got to walk forward to get it.
I'd just be really interested to hear of like any of those kind of, like our process here discussing it is a kind of percolation that comes out with a type of coffee, but there's got to be something where people are watching it and they're having a thought and we're not speaking that thought. That's the kind of feedback, the kind of, oh, did you think of it this way or could you see it this way? That's where I think it would get really engaging.
If we missed something, absolutely send that in. truthunrestricted@gmail.com, or if you know me on Facebook,
interpretations,
just contact me on Facebook, or if you go to Twitter, Spencer G. Watson at Twitter. I have only one person blocked. Very, very few people blocked. So
cool.
Yeah. All right. We'll sign off. Okay.
All right.
Until next time.
See ya.
Whoa, I bet you thought this was over. Yeah, it's not really over. We forgot to do a critical thing. We forgot to mention what movie we're going to do next. Mm-hmm. I almost didn't bother to do this because last time I did mention doing Manchurian Candidate, and we are definitely going to do Manchurian Candidate. And I'm going to insist that I pull scenes from both movies and compare them. Because that's the way it's going to go. It's an interesting arc because, again, like this one had a short story in the 60s and then it had a movie in the 80s, and how the plot points developed. This has the two movies had the same sort of feature. So we're going to do those and compare them to each other and look at that. So Manchurian Candidate, one of them was made in 1963 to 62. Yeah, 62. Definitely 1962. The other one was made in 2004. So, for anyone who wants to watch those to refresh themselves on the plot of Manchurian Candidate, I find almost no one has watched this, and I actually hadn't watched it until I had to do this. So, yeah. All right. Thanks for coming back to do this, Patrick. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now ending for real. Till next time.
All right. Bye.